This episode has been brought to you by Manscaped. The new Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra is every man's cheat code to look good, feel good, and turn the page on confidence this year. Go to manscaped.com, use the code GOLTS20 for 20% off plus free shipping today. This week on the Heart of the Gulch YouTube show, we sit down with musician/songwriter Kylie Frey. We talk about her journey from being a rodeo queen to taking over the country music scene. In today's Walk the Line episode, Kylie performs her newest single, Woman Outta Love. Let's check out the episode. We are in the heart of the Gulch. I'm your host, Tony Mendoza, and sitting across from me right now, we got the next CMT Woman of Country. And not only that, she is Miss Thang, all the way from Louisiana. She has played the Grand Ole Opry. She's played the dive bars. She's played the stadiums. We got the one and only Kylie Frey in the building.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, man, I am super excited that you're here at the Heart of the Gulch. Thank you so much, Kylie.
No, thank you. It's always a really big blessing whenever I get to just like sit down, enjoy a chat with someone, you know, and we don't have to like rush everything into like a 3-minute radio interview, you know?
Oh, absolutely. And, you know,
these are my favorite.
I was doing some research on you, and you've had some pretty good, I guess you could say, material because you were, you know, a rodeo queen.
Yes.
And you had to do all the interviews for the Rodeo Queen.
Yes.
So you're like well-spoken and everything.
You know, I try to be. I'm from South Louisiana, but I don't sound like it.
No, you do not.
And I attribute that to being a rodeo queen. Also, I had a lisp as a child, and I went through a lot of speech therapy, so that kind of helped too. But I promise if you meet my parents, you'd know I'm from Louisiana. So.
I heard that they actually know how to cook some darn good food.
Yeah, so my parents are in the boudin business. And Billy's Boudin in South Louisiana. That's my mom and dad's stores. There's 4 stores. Probably another one popping up soon. So, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, they're the definition of the American dream. It's pretty cool to see my family come from nothing and build a business from the ground up. It really taught me a lot growing up. You
know, one thing as I was doing research on you, and guys, one thing in front of me right here. So we got a true person that knows how to rodeo, coming back all the way back from your father, right? Or before him?
Yeah, so my dad was a saddle bronc rider. All his brothers and sisters rodeoed as well. My grandpa rodeoed. So it was just kind of in the blood.
What are some tips that you can give them to do to be outside and really enjoy, you know, what it's like to not necessarily be in a rodeo, because that's not as easy to do, but
Sure.
What would you say for someone that's never done it before? What are some good tryouts, some startups to start learning?
I'd say just go to a rodeo and just experience it if you haven't. I'm always a big advocate for getting outdoors in general, whether it's just going for a walk or putting your bare feet on the ground. The Western way of life, some of the best people that I know come from ranches and farms, and I think it's that way for a reason. It just builds a lot of character, and yeah, I mean, whether you just want to go and hang out on a farm and ride a horse or whatever, I say go for it.
What is your favorite carnival, aka rodeo food?
Ooh, I went to a prison rodeo one time.
A prison rodeo?
Yes. Yeah.
Elaborate, please.
And the events were wild, but when I went to Angola, there was fried Coke, Coca-Cola, yes. And so basically it was like pancake batter or whatever that was made with Coca-Cola, and they would just drop that in the deep fryer, and it was just like these little balls with like powdered sugar, and it still had a little bit of the carbonation going on. It was the wildest thing. Yeah. I will never forget that. I haven't had it since.
Well, you know that you have to be very resourceful if you're going to be somewhere even near a prison. So, right. You know, you come up with some crazy things.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good point.
Now, speaking of which, let's talk about some music and, you know, really getting into, you know, learning your way, because obviously you're in the rodeo, you're a rodeo queen, but then you started to fall in love with music.
Yeah.
And it was what, at the end of about high school time?
Yeah, so I always loved to sing, right? I was really bad at it.
Yeah, that's hard to believe now.
I think some people can just, come out of the womb singing beautifully, and others have to work on it. And I felt like I was one of those people who had to work on it. I think I always had a decent tone, but I definitely had to work on it. So, but I just always loved it. It was just kind of always in my heart. And my aunt asked me to sing the national anthem for the high school rodeo that she was putting on at her house in her backyard. I was maybe in kindergarten. I was very,
wow.
very, very
That's very young.
Yes. And to me, it was the biggest
stage.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It was huge, right? For a high school rodeo? Come on.
That's sick.
Yes. And so I conquered it, and it was the best feeling. And so my grandpa was there, and I just remember him being so proud, and he was like, that's your ticket. Like, Reba McEntire got her start singing the national anthem at rodeos. You sing the national anthem at every rodeo you show up to, and that's what I did. There was a confidence thing there. Like, I never really thought that I could be the Reba McEntire or the Shania Twain. And so it was, it was a silly dream in my mind growing up that probably wasn't attainable. But when I started writing songs in high school was when it all clicked for me. It's like, oh, I do have a voice and I have something to say, and maybe I can do this. And so in high school, I just kind of really went full force into music because unfortunately you can't really make a great living tying goats,
Speaking of your grandpa,
yeah,
and you are playing the Grand Ole Opry literally tomorrow.
Yes.
And speaking of your grandpa, if I remember correctly, that was the song that you played on your first time at the Grand Ole Opry, isn't that right?
It was, yes.
And for you to do an homage at the Grand Ole Opry for your grandpa, that's something that is like, that gives me chills just thinking about it. So talk to me about it a little bit more.
Thank you. It's pretty cool, the journey that this song has taken me on. It goes back a little bit further. I tried to sing the national anthem for the NFR, which, if you don't know what the NFR is, it's like the Super Bowl of rodeo. It's the big time. It's as far as you can get in the PRCA. That is where Reba got her start, was singing the national anthem for the NFR, right? And so that was my goal, like kind of above the Grand Ole Opry. Like, that is all I wanted to do.
That's cool. I love that. Yeah.
My manager jokes all the time because I met him in Vegas for the NFR, and so he and his partner, my other manager, Irv Woolsey, who managed George Strait, most people come up to Irv being like, when can I open for George, or can you play this song for George? And I went up to them and I was like, can you get me a national anthem at the NFR? And they were like, so that's all you want? Sure, we can do that. It turned out to be harder than they thought. It took years after that, for them. And but I finally got there in 2020. It was in Texas. It didn't happen in Vegas that year, but it was in Texas. And I showed up, and there was
Dallas, Houston, where?
It was in Arlington, so it was at Globe Life Field. Yep. Got it. Huge. And Randy Houser was there to do Johnny Cash's Old Rugged Flag.
Seeing how things connect now.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So yes. Randy, shout out to Randy Houser out there.
I know, which is so funny because I was originally supposed to be singing on the night when Cody Johnson was performing. And I am such a big Cody Johnson fan.
JoJo's the beast.
Yes. Beast. And so when I found out that I had been switched to a different night, I was a little bummed, but also I'm like, I'm getting to live my dream. Who cares?
Randy Houser. People sleep on Randy Houser. He is a no joking matter. That man can sing.
He is one of the best voices that has ever seen, country music has ever seen.
So I'm guessing that's where you guys met for the first time.
That's where we met for the first time.
Wow.
Yes. I had no idea Randy was going to be there. I didn't know who else was on that night. But it was Randy, and he did Johnny Cash's Old Rugged Flag, and my manager had worked with Randy before. They were good friends, and so I got to talk to him and whatnot, and so we both did our thing. And when we were taken back to the backstage area, you know, you have to walk through like the halls of the stadium and stuff, which is so cool. I was walking alongside of him, and he was just so complimentary of me and asking me questions. And so I got to tell him the story of my grandpa and how that was just a bucket list thing that I just did and how much it meant to me and my family. And he actually caught a ride with my manager to Billy Bob's. Yep.
Love Billy Bob's.
Yep. And he caught a ride with him to Billy Bob's that night. And on their way, Randy asked if he could hear some music from me. And so sure enough, Alan played him a couple of songs, and he got to Horses in Heaven, and Randy, the song was over, and then they talked a little bit more, and then Randy's like, hey, can you play that one song again? And he was humming along, and I was like, what's happening here? He goes, play it for me one more time. And so he played it for him a third time, and then he was really singing. And Alan and EJ was in the car. He's another one on my management team, but they were both looking at each other like, is what's happening what we think is happening right now? And Randy says, boys, I would sing on that if she would have me. And they were both like, buddy, let's get it done tomorrow. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so that's how Randy ended up on Horses in Heaven. And that song became the fastest rising song to hit the top of the Texas charts by a female. And it's kind of just the song that keeps on giving. I feel like my grandpa is up in heaven just kind of pulling some strings. And he's really, there's been a lot of doors that have opened for me because of this song and this story.
Well, all right. Well, first of all, I'm going to stop you there because it's not just the song. It's you.
Thank you.
And that's the thing. When people meet people for the first time, right? Like Randy and yourself met for the first time, immediately you can tell if someone's genuine. Literally, when you guys came in here, I could tell that you guys were all genuine people. And that's something that you can't buy. You can't teach that.
Sure.
I was reading some the other day that they make a lot of machines in the gym to work on anything, but they don't make a machine that works on the heart. So I think it's super cool that he saw that in you. And, you know, speaking of which, because you brought up some big places, I'm not going to let you leave here without talking about Billy Bob's. And
Yes.
It seems to me that Texas has some of the best, like, I would say, on your way to the Grand Ole Opry stages.
Yeah.
Billy Bob's being one of them. I'm going to let you say a couple more because there's another one that would be considered my Grand Ole Opry.
Okay. Is it Green Hall?
Yes, it is.
Yay!
I love Green Hall.
Yes, I love Green Hall too. I played it for the first time last year. And I think we were 26 tickets from selling it out. So.
Well, congrats, because when you can play Green Hall, that's located in New Braunfels, Texas.
Yes.
It is one of those honky tonks that it's not a dive bar. It's people are there to dance.
Yes.
But also there's one more that I want to see if you know. So it's in Helotes, Texas. Have you ever heard of it?
Floors.
Come on.
Yep.
I would have thought you were from Texas. I would have thought you were from Texas knowing Floors.
You know, I should be from Texas. I'll probably live there one day, but I joke with people because everyone thinks that I'm from Texas. They're like, oh, how's Texas? And I'm like, it's great. I'm always down there. I was like, but I've never lived there. Funny enough, I'm from Louisiana, but, you know, I grew up traveling the roads of Texas and going to rodeos and stuff. And I started out I still consider myself to be a part of Texas country music. I was just at the Texas Music Awards the other day. It was just a lot easier for me to jump the state line and go jump in and play shows and work radio there than it was. Nashville was this whole big place that I didn't know anything about, had never experienced, but I grew up on Texas country music, and that was familiar to me, and it seemed like a no-brainer. And, you know,
so let's go back to the stages here, and just if you could describe each one of the three there, how would you describe them if you just had to pick a couple words?
Ooh, okay. Billy Bob's. It's the bad mamba jamma of them all.
I like that.
Yes. Green is green is electric.
See, I was gonna say enchanting.
It is enchanting. It's just, I can't describe it.
Okay, and what about floors? How would you describe floors from playing it?
Floors is just your all-American honky tonk.
Yeah, absolutely. With the boots on the ceiling.
Yes.
Okay, so, obviously we got to take a quick break because we got to shout out the sponsors of the show. And when we come back, I'm excited to know what your upcoming single is because we're filming this in March, almost April, but you're going to be out when they watch this in the top of May.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to know what the upcoming single is going to be. And we also have a game for you to play that I'm excited for you to do.
Perfect.
All right, we'll be right back.
Wintertime is almost over. Spring is on the way. So fellas, it's time to pull out your junk and assess the damage. Trim those hedges, mow those lawns. And no, I'm not talking about grass. I'm talking about what's in between your Manscaped new Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra is every man's cheat code to look good, feel good, and turn the page on confidence this year. Whether you're going for a trim or that clean-shaven look, this trimmer has you covered. Go to manscaped.com, use the code GOLDS20 for 20% off plus free shipping.
Let's talk about so many more things that we got coming up this year because, it's 2024. What were some of the things in 2023 that you were just stoked that you're so proud of?
So in 2023, that year was taken up a lot by this little TV show that I got to do. I was on America's Got Talent. And so that took up a lot of my year. And it was a really great experience just getting to learn the behind the scenes of TV and stepping up my performance game and whatnot. And it was also a year of just kind of shaking off some fear and just saying, what, let's just really do this, getting in the studio, new producer, kind of honing in more on the sound and just really going for it. And so the fruit of that I get to have this year and with putting out new songs and, just continuing what I'm doing.
I think that is very interesting that a lot of people that go on to these shows, like, Idol, you name it, right? The Voice, typically do not have the type of success prior to being on something like that.
Yeah.
So I find it very interesting that, you took that opportunity because at the stage that you're at, like literally you played stadiums, you played, regular honky tonks, and you also played dive bars.
Yeah.
So I'm very surprised that you took on the challenge of being on TV. What made you take the challenge? Because it seems like your trajectory is already on the up anyway.
I'll be honest. It was a slice of humble pie to take the opportunity, because there's this cowgirl pride that lives inside of me. I've worked so hard and I've built this thing up myself. Just to be associated with a TV show kind of deal when I've already built so much on my own. But a wise person gave me the advice of sometimes you just have to be humble enough to succeed. And you have to take the opportunities that come your way that maybe you wouldn't have chosen for yourself. But who am I to say no to an audience of 8 million people?
I mean, come on, you can't turn something like that down regardless.
Right.
It always seems to me that the folks that go on to those TV shows are, very fresh. Yeah. Very much just, they only sang in maybe like their town's, Star Spangled Banner.
Sure.
Anything like that. But, going back to you though, and having all this success that you've had currently, I mean, what are some moments that you've had, in the past year besides being on TV, I mean, that you've just said, wow, I can't believe that? Because didn't you just recently play with Kojo?
So I opened some shows with Kojo. That was prior. Some really awesome stadiums with him.
Yeah, by the way, that is a whole podcast within itself.
Yeah. I mean, that camp is just top notch. I learned so much by opening a handful of shows for him. But yeah, that, and then last year was my debut at the Grand Ole Opry. I think that was the the cherry on top of the, Sunday of 2023.
Well, we mentioned Kojo, and I mean,
Yeah.
I think because both of us really respect Texas country,
Yeah.
and how much Kojo is embedded in Texas country.
Yeah.
I mean, talk to me what those crowds are like. So, for example, we talked about how you've been able to play dive bars, honky tonks, and then stadiums.
Yeah.
I mean, what is the different type of crowds each one brings?
It just depends on where you are and maybe what night of the week it is. That's kind of what makes it so fun. It's a little bit like rodeo. Is like, it's kind of luck of the draw. Sometimes you don't know what you're gonna get, and sometimes you may have a crowd that's just just there to hang out and drink a beer and not really there to see a band. But when you can turn those people into fans, I feel like that is when you know that, okay, I have something, and my level of being a performer is getting to where I need it to get. So you really cut your teeth with those types of crowds. With the Kojo crowds, they're a dream. They're an absolute dream because they're there, they're ready to see some high energy country music. It's the same demographic that I'm going for. So, it's not like I'm playing for a crowd that would not be into my music. It's the same type of crowd that I would like to have. And so it's just to show up there and do my thing and just let them enjoy it.
Not everyone has played stadiums, and that is such a gift.
It is.
That you've gotten to play, and even Green Hall is a gift to have to play.
It is, yes.
What's do you ever go on stage and you start to kind of is it muscle memory now, where when you get on stage, do you black out and you just perform to your best, or every time that you get on stage, do you kind of take it in and just feel the crowd and feel out what everyone's like?
There's a lot of muscle memory that is involved in performing. That side of it, I feel like did not come naturally to me. It's something that I've had to work at, but it's something that I have the most fun doing now. Because it is, you just never know, right? Like there's so much that could go, like, you do a show, like, you can go back and edit, but like during a live show, you just never know what could happen.
Anything could happen.
And so just the excitement of it's something new every time, I think really fits my personality. Like I don't do well in a box. I was not good at school. I went to one semester of college and I had a schedule and I thought I was going to pull my hair out. And so I think that aspect of me is really exciting. And the fact that when I do get to those stages of like, oh, I've got this, it's muscle memory. We just do what we do every time. Then I'm thrown for a loop and it's like, oh no.
This just happened.
Yeah. Like, buck up, cowgirl. Like, this crowd is not here for you, and you got to work for it. And you just step it up and you do it.
Oh, moments. I'll bleep that out later. Oh, moments happen while you're performing.
Yeah.
That you had to make that quick adjustment. And then talk to me about how different it is when you are performing and, you're in that element, you're in that mode. Have you ever gotten goosebumps while you performed?
Absolutely. Yeah. Totally. Oh shit moments happen all the time for me.
Like what?
It's like I'll put my capo on the wrong fret, there's so many moving parts when I'm performing because I'm talking to the audience. I'm singing most of the time. Like there's only so many solos you can put in a song, right? And so I'm either singing or talking and playing guitar and tuning and trying to come up with like funny, witty things to say in between. And so there's just a lot going on at one time. And so sometimes the brain malfunctions and I'm like, the song that I've played for 10 years, I just put it on the wrong capo and I start out in the wrong key. And then, guitar player's side eyes and I'm like, gotta scoot that one up.
What's it like to work a crowd? So for the folks that are watching this right now that have never been in a stadium or just on a stage that have stage fright.
Yeah.
Right. What's it like to really work for a crowd? Because let's say you are at a dive bar and we're at Floor's Country Store.
Yep.
And people are there just to two-step and dance and they don't know who you are.
Yep.
How do you work it to where you switch that and they start following you on all platforms?
Actually, I think dancing is the highest compliment when I'm performing, because it's actually a lot harder than you would think to make people dance. And I had to learn that, especially with sitting in Nashville and recording and just writing songs for 2 or 3 years. So very early on, I did a duet with Randy Rogers. Way before I should have done a duet with Randy Rogers. And he took me out on the road. I opened shows. And he very much became like a big brother figure for me, right? And his advice was go to Nashville, write songs. You have a gift for writing songs, hone it. Like, let Nashville be your college. Just learn from the best songwriters that you can. He's like, because once you start touring, and you can't slow down and work on your craft. You have to build that side first, right? And so that's exactly what I did.
Talked about your songwriting skills. I agree with that. I think a lot of your songs come from you and speak from your heart. But there's so many people in this town with the same level of passion.
Yes.
And they're competitive. I mean, what is it like, seeing that difference moving to Nashville?
It's pretty awesome because you either get better or you go home. It really puts you through the ring of fire. Like, you either get forged in it or you get burned. And I learned how to write songs, and I was doing all those writers rounds. And you can kind of get stuck a little bit in the writers round thing, because what songwriters appreciate is not always what a honky tonk audience is going to appreciate. And I had to learn that the hard way because, my heart just wants to pour out all of these ballads, which I love and will always do. But there's something really special about making people dance and having a song that has meat on the bone, that feels good, and that someone can two-step to. Randy told me very early on, if you can make people dance in Texas, you will have a career the rest of your life. And I remember the very first time that I made a crowd dance from the beginning of my show till the end, a 90-minute show. And I was in Copeland, Texas. I made them dance the whole time, and there were hardly any people in the room. And it was one of those shows that I had to work for, but they danced the whole time.
Wow.
And
that's awesome.
I was like, okay, this is what he was talking about, and I'm getting somewhere.
Do you feel like there's a totally different type of audience versus everywhere else in the United States when you play music here?
I do think that. And I think that there's a different type of audience, around the country. In Texas, people very much want to dance. It's part of the culture, right? And so that's why it's so important there. And that also transcends, nationwide. Obviously, Randy Rogers is a very great example of that. What is so special about Nashville is you can come here and listen to the best songwriters, and you can just sit and have a glass of wine and hear stories and have like an emotional experience and just kind of like have the Bluebird experience, and which is also really special. And that I love. Like,
let them know. So for the folks that are watching this right now or listening to this, what is the Bluebird, and
Yes.
let them know how intimate that setting is.
So the Bluebird is a little tiny cafe. I lived right down the road from it for 6 years. My first apartment was right by it. And they're known for writers' rounds where 3 or 4 songwriters will sit in the middle of the room.
They're on top of you.
Yes, facing each other. I mean, it's a little tiny cafe.
Mm-hmm.
And so these songwriters will sit in the middle, and they're just kind of singing for each other. And then you have an audience of people all around them who just get to experience this really intimate
setting.
Yes.
And so speaking of intimate and those settings and just singing that songs that you love to sing, I mean, talk to me about 2024, the songs that you've dropped this year.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to know about this, the performance that we're going to have later after this about, the newest single at the time. But let's talk about the first single that dropped in 2024.
Yes. So the first single of 2024 is called Miss Thang.
Yes.
Yes.
I love that song. It's spicy.
Thank you. It is spicy. Joe, who is my guitar player, we're dating. We've been dating for 3 years. And so when he first joined the band, his very first rehearsal that he showed up to, he started calling me Miss Thang. And I was like, who is this new dude showing up here calling me Miss Thang? And why is he saying that? And I asked him, I was like, you know, is that just your thing? Like, do you just call girls that? And he was like, no. He's like, I've actually never called anyone that. He's like, I just looked at you and I said, that's Miss Thang. And it made me feel really good. And, you know, it was the first person that made me want to like just dig in to myself and be like, you know what? I am Miss Thang. And this show is not perfect. This rig breaks down, but you know what? I look good doing it, and I'm just going to keep on until I can't anymore. And so that song was born out of that. And it's kind of my own reminder to be like, hey, girl, you got this. Yeah.
The little things like that pop up in your everyday life and you create a song out of it? Or is it something where it's like just being called Miss Thang?
Yeah.
Turned it into a song?
Yeah.
I mean, does that happen pretty often where you're able to take something that's happened in your life and start creating a melody, creating a song to it?
Yes. Most songs for me come from little phrases that pop up in my life that not only sound cool and are witty, but give me a feeling. Like, you know, when he called me Miss Thang, it was just this feeling of like empowerment. And I don't know. I just had to run with that feeling. I had to put that feeling into a song. And it's important that that feeling is also captured in the song for me, right? Not only the line. So, yeah, most of my songs come from real life experiences where something happened and just a little nugget will just be said that inspires the whole thing.
See, I can tell when she's giving a good answer because I got Heather on this side over here and she's just like shaking her head like, yep, that's right, that's right. So, you know, speaking about, you know, all the singles, what is the game plan for 2024? I think that's a good question to ask. I mean, the Grand Ole, I'm not going to keep on saying, the Grand Ole Opry's tomorrow. That's crazy.
Yes.
I'm trying to think about how many guests I've had on this show where I've been talking to them prior to the Grand Ole Opry. They always played it, you know, after, and I've talked to them. So, I mean, first of all, what are the nerves like? I mean, so we were talking about all the different venues. Where does the Grand Ole Opry land from a stadium type environment to a honky tonk? It's definitely not a dive bar, but what kind of energy do you bring to a situation like that?
It's interesting because you want to bring a lot of energy to that stage, but there's a certain respect that has to be brought to that stage. You know, you want to be bouncing off the rafters, but also you want to be very classy because it's the Grand Ole Opry. And all of your heroes have stood there before you. So I don't know. It's one of those kind of out of body experiences. At least it was for me. The first time that I got to play it, and I'm sure tomorrow night will be, you know, the same situation. But
when you play on every other type of stage, you're playing to the person across from you. When you play the Grand Ole Opry, you're playing to the people that came after and the people that are no longer here. Is that a good way to explain what it's like to play at the Grand Ole Opry?
I think so. Yeah, because I mean, you can feel the presence.
And the people are just there witnessing what you're doing.
Yes. And the audience too, they're there to see country music and they know the weight of the stage that they're witnessing, you know? And so that's brought there too. So it's a different deal. I haven't played anything like it before. It is its own thing, and I probably won't play anything like it.
Well, I mean, that's usually again. So many people just look for that opportunity. I know people like, I think Randy Rogers, wasn't that the first time they played the Ryman was this year, or was that they played it multiple times?
Oh, I'm not sure.
So they just played the Ryman, and I'm wondering, you must have played the Ryman.
I have not played the Ryman.
You haven't played the Ryman? Played the Grand Ole Opry?
Yeah, I have not played the Ryman. No.
What do you think that stage is talking to you right now? What is that like?
I have no idea. I can't wait to play the Ryman though. I mean, that's on my list for sure.
So what is one thing a fan has done where you just like, has a fan ever given you something where you're just like, I cannot believe this right now? Maybe it was a token of their appreciation. Do you have anything that sticks out in your mind?
So I have 2 stories, and I might cry because I've been emotional, but
means I'm getting to her, y'all.
So I have 2 stories. So there's a guy named Jake. He is from around Austin. I think Belton is where he's from, but I met him at a show, and a couple days later we played Robert Earl Keen's 4th of July festival.
Jeez.
I know, right?
All the cool names that I love.
And so we played that festival a couple days later, and he also came to that show.
Wow.
And but he wears this dirty old hat that looks so cool that it's something that you would probably buy at, like, I don't know, Kimosabi or something, that rough it up, but his is real. I mean, he worked
has
for
real
that sweatband.
Sweat in there, yeah.
Yes. So he came to that show, and as a touring artist, especially getting started, touring is an investment. So we don't always make money. It's a give or take. And that particular run, I was losing, which we're used to, but he came up to me after the show and he was like, hey, so I went to the horse races today and I won big. And he was like, and I have something for you. He said, I think this is the best bet I'm going to make all day. And he hands me an envelope and it's full of cash. And it was the exact amount of money that I lost on that run.
Really?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I know. And then I played that same festival a year later. I don't know what it is about this festival in that town, but Kerrville, Texas. Love it. This little girl comes up to me. She's beautiful. She's got this dark skin and curly hair, and she said her name was Kylie. And I was like, oh, we're name twins, whatever. And she said, I saw you here last year. And she said, we saw you were coming back again. She said, so I made my grandma bring me just to see you again. She said, thank you for giving me someone to look up to, and just gave me the biggest bear hug. And I don't know, in that moment, it was the best gift anyone could have given me, because I was like, oh, that's what this is about. This is not about me. This is what I'm doing this for. And I need to remember this little girl.
One thing that I could just imagine is that when you write, it's still your job. It's your job to come up with songs. It's your job to go touring. It's your job to be out in the public.
Yes.
But what's amazing is those moments when you kind of step back, you see those exchanges with fans, and then you realize that, oh, my job is more impactful than anything that you can do. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like people work very hard in this world, in blue collar towns and everything like that, building bridges, you name it. We need every single one of y'all, and the people that serve. Shout out to the people that serve. But what you do too is you give people that chance to escape.
Yeah.
So do you feel, that was more of a,
That's the goal.
It wasn't really a question there. It was just my long thing to talk about there. But do you always feel good when you see those experiences?
Yeah, things like that just kind of keep us going, because it's a very self-serving thing. It can be, and it's very hard work that we don't really talk about behind the scenes of how much hard work goes into this, and just the amount of sleep that you lose and whatnot, because we get to do really cool things, and so who wants to complain about that? But just little things like that, letting me know why I am on this journey, just really helps push me forward.
All right, well, we're gonna take another quick break, and when we come back, I got some fans that want to talk to you. So you ready to do it?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it.
What is a moment or an interview that you had that was really just like a pinch me, I'm dreaming moment?
And it doesn't have to be an interview. It could be just a pinch me, I'm dreaming moment.
Probably the interview that happens right after your debut on the Grand Ole Opry. It's like, I can't believe I'm standing here on the Grand Ole Opry stage answering questions about myself and what I just did, you know? Yeah. No, and your debut is like a fever dream. Like,
explain it.
because there's so much going on, especially if they do, if they film you, then there's so many moving parts. I mean, from the time that you touch down at the Grand Ole Opry to the time that you leave, you're being interviewed. You're just doing all sorts of things.
They did a great job in your interview. I love when they do the Grand Ole Opry does one of the best jobs of whoever's performing there has, you know, their moment in front of the camera. And I think it's such a cool thing, honestly. Now, okay, so let's go on to this last question here.
Nashville has been the most intimidating to play.
Okay. What stage in Nashville has been the most intimidating to play outside of the Grand Ole Opry?
Outside of the Grand Ole Opry.
Yes. Let's open it up outside of Nashville.
Nashville in itself is intimidating to play.
Yeah.
But I'd probably have to go with the Bluebird.
Yeah, because they're all up on you.
Yeah, just because there's so much history there, and I knew about the Bluebird, you know, before the TV show Nashville came out and before it really blew up. I knew about it from a young age, and I always dreamed of playing the Bluebird, and so that was very intimidating for me.
You know, I think about, and I'm going to ask my last two questions here, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the single that you're going to play for us here for your Walk the Line, and I'm excited for that. But, you know, I think about the places you played and all the places that you played that mean near and dear to my heart coming from Texas. And we talked about it in the first half of the show. But, you know, Billy Bob's.
Yes.
I mean, are you playing there again this year?
I don't have a date on the books yet, but I'm hopeful that we will. So I've played Billy Bob's twice now. And Billy Bob's was also on, like, top of the list of places that I had to play, right? So Billy Minnick, who owns Billy Bob's, it's named after him. He and my grandpa college rodeoed together. And so I also knew of Billy Bob's probably when I didn't need to know about Billy Bob's, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, what does a kid need to know about Billy Bob's? But so I'd always dreamed of playing there. And I got to know the folks backstage prior to getting to do my debut.
What's the and I'm curious because I'm not a musician, so I don't know what the process is like for Billy Bob's, but do they treat like the Grand Ole Opry and Billy Bob's, do they treat it the same way? Or is it a lot more laid back atmosphere when you go to Billy Bob's? Because Billy Bob's it's not the Grand Ole Opry where everyone is watching you. They have the whole thing set up. It's more of just, it's an elevated honky tonk.
Yes, it's more of a true honky tonk experience, but it's Billy Bob's, and so it's elevated, right? And I got to play a smaller stage at Billy Bob's before I got to do the big stage, and that was kind of where, I guess, kind of my audition to be like, okay, let's see what she can do, and I did really well on that smaller stage, and so then it was like, okay, we're going to graduate her.
Well, you know, speaking of graduating to the big stage, my last two questions here is, so the CMA Fest.
Yes.
It's coming up.
Yes.
What is the stage you're going to be playing on the CMA Fest where everyone can check you out?
I will be playing the Reverb stage. Yes. It's like in front of the Bridgestone.
I mean, CMA Fest in Nashville go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And I mean, are you excited to be around so many people? Because that stage is literally across the street from Tootsie's and all of them. There's going to be so many people.
I know. I'm so excited. I've played CMA Fest once before. I think 2019 or 2018.
But it was a reverb, right?
It was a reverb. No, it was a smaller stage. And then the last couple of years since then, I've been in Mexico the week that CMA Fest was going on. So I'm excited to actually be here and play CMA Fest again. You know, any of these big things that happen in Nashville are always an honor to play. And there's only so many slots, right? And so as an artist here, where there's so many great fellow artists, it's always a pleasure. So yeah, I'm really excited.
Well, okay, so then my last question that I ask almost everyone in the show, and these guys know I'm notorious for it, is you know, what can you tell to the person that's watching this right now that is dealing with people that do not believe in their vision? people that, doubted, their passion. Maybe they're really passionate and they want to leave work right now, leave a corporate job to start something.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a musician, maybe it's create a show. But, what piece of advice can you tell them to, take the leap of faith and do not listen to the people that are doubting what's in their heart?
I just am a believer that God puts a dream in your heart for a reason. And if you have a vision and you have a dream and you have a goal, then it didn't come from nowhere. That those things don't just pop in your head. So I say go for it. And I know that logistically, things like time and money and other things can get in the way, but push forward, and it doesn't matter how long it takes you. You only get one life, and you might as well do what's in your heart and what you were put here to do.
Baby steps. You can start by baby steps.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so before we tee off to your Walk the Line segment that you're going to do in our studio, which I'm excited for, let's talk about the single that you're going to be playing today.
Yes. So this song is called Woman Outta Love, and I wrote it with Neil Cody and Grace Tyler, who is a fellow artist, and she came in with the idea, "Rockin' a Hard Place," which is a line in the song, and immediately I was in, because I was like, my biggest fear in life is getting married, so I can totally relate to this, and we just dove in and we wrote it so fast. I think we wrote it in an hour, and it's just kind of a third person cautionary tale of a woman in a relationship where she feels stuck. And, if it's someone in a bad relationship where they do need to get out, I hope it gives that person the courage to walk away. Or most of all, I hope it gives women just the safe place that they need to feel their feelings and decide to fight for their marriage.
Absolutely. Okay, so the way that we tee off your Walk the Line is you look straight into that camera right there, you say your name, and you say, "This is how I walk the line." Just like the Johnny Cash song, all right?
Love it.
So right after the applause here, in 3, 2.
Hey, I'm Kylie Frey, and this is how I walk the line. Mama said, wait, don't jump the gun. Life gets old fast when you marry too young. At 22, she knew everything and said yes to a boy with a pawn shop ring. Now it's diamond on the left from the wrong right man. It's a never should have been white gold band. It's too damn hard to be meant to be, and now she's caught somewhere between. No reason to leave and no reason to stay. She's just a woman out of love, stuck between a rock and a hard place. She didn't say I do to say I don't. I'm praying it'll get better when she knows it won't. If she's had all the rough patches she can stand, then why is it so hard to take it off her hand? That diamond on the left from the wrong right man. It's a never should have been white gold band. It's too damn hard to be meant to be, and now she's caught somewhere between. No reason to leave and no reason to stay. She's just a woman out of love, stuck between a rock and a hard place. With no reason to leave and no reason to stay. She's just a woman
woman out of love, stuck between a rock and a hard place. What's a woman to do, stuck between a rock and a hard place?